Stood up here before and had this view of you guys. Pretty good looking group. Looks a lot better than those pictures up in that hallway. Man, y'all look rough up there. I do too. Start out telling you a story. There's these two guys, Joe and Bubba, and they were in this town about like Lenore. They were in a town about this size, and they ran the town. They owned most of the buildings in downtown, and they ran it. They owned all the buildings, and they were ruthless. They were always in it for the money. They held the rest of the town down, and that's all they cared about was money right here, right now. Well, one day old Joe died. Bubba came to the church where they went to, the First Baptist Church, whatever. Went to the preacher and said, you know, I know old Joe, he wasn't always the nicest guy in the world, but I got $1 million I'm going to give to the church, donate for that new building that you want to build. But there's one stipulation. When you do his eulogy tomorrow, you need to tell everybody that he was a saint. And so the pastor, he struggled with that for a little while. Thought about it. He said, all right, I'll do it. So the next day, he's doing the eulogy, and he said, old Joe, he was a low-down, nasty scoundrel. He was a crook. He was a criminal. And he held this town down for years. But compared to his brother Bubba, he was a saint. The reason I tell that is because, and I've really learned this here on the Hill, is that addiction knows it doesn't have any kind of discrimination at all. It'll come after anybody. In the case of them, they were addicted to money and power. People are addicted to gambling. Most of the people here are addicted to substances. Addiction is not a disease, it's sin. And that's what I've really learned here right now. And the only way to overcome that is through Jesus. He's the only one that can get us through that.
Amen. That's right. Amen.
I want to tell you a little bit about my life story, and it might be a little different from what you usually hear in this kind of situation, because I've had a really, really good life. I was very fortunate. I was blessed to be born into a really good family in a good town. And so I'm going to tell you about that. And I don't want you to think I'm bragging, because I didn't do any of that. I was just lucky enough to be born in that family. And then I'm going to tell you the rest of the story. 3 minutes, okay. I will. All right, so anyway, long story short, great town, great family, high school, sports, all that, college, sports, all that, everything, good career in commercial roofing. Everything was good. My family is fantastic, Christian. They've stood by my side this whole time. Beautiful wife, 2 beautiful daughters, grandson. Every one of them knows the Lord. It's been fantastic. Well, what happened with me was I decided I liked to party, and that started back in middle school. When I was in middle school, they called it junior high school at the time, I started drinking beer, smoking pot, and discovered women back then too. Started having sex when I was in middle school. That continued on through college and high school, got married, and the one thing I held on to was alcohol. And I know a lot of you, you're probably thinking, alcohol, that's no big deal, it's legal, no problem. I wasn't on the road with, I did all the drugs. I was a deadhead all through college, and if anybody knows what that means, it's a serious partying lifestyle. I did that for over 100 shows all over the country, and you know what kind of drugs that involves. But alcohol's the one that ended up getting me. And I'm here to tell you right now, I've probably driven more miles drunk than anybody in this room, and only by the grace of God I haven't killed somebody. And I hate drunk drivers, and I am one. And you don't want to be that, I'm telling you. So anyway, I got a DUI in March, and the next day I woke up, I resigned from my job, and I found Bethel, and I decided this is where I needed to be, because I understood that this is the only type of place that's going to get me free of drinking forever, and that's what I'm going to do. I'll never drink again, never. So anyway, to get to my verses and everything, obviously my favorite verses would be most everyone in here, John 3:16, God so loved the world, he gave his only son for us. John 14:6, I'm the light and the way and the truth. The only way to get to heaven and to God is through Jesus. But to me also, Ephesians 6 is big, because what we're in is spiritual warfare. And that's what we are in. We're in a war. And once I walk out of here today, that's when it starts. This is boot camp for me. And I've graduated from boot camp. It's celebration. I'm happy. It's good. But now I've got to get down to business. Ephesians 6, 12 says, we do not battle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. If that doesn't spell it out, I don't know what does. This is the New Testament talking about what war we're in right now. This stuff is real. Demons are real. And so we've got to keep that in mind at all times. And that's all I have, but I do want to leave you. Some of you know that one of my daughters had written a letter to me for every day here, and I want to close with the one that she sent me for today. Daddy, today's the day. You've officially finished one of the most difficult and rewarding seasons of your life. You're a new man. You have found freedom most people never ever find. You're equipped to help others that were in your same shoes. Put on that armor and go out into the world, Daddy. You're a warrior, and you're a threat to hell. Hell literally trembles when your feet are reintroduced to the ground each morning. I'm praying that you will never forget these truths and remember to take one day at a time. You can do this, Daddy. I believe in you. I'm immensely proud of you. I love you, Elizabeth. Amen.